or I've been an agnostic for most of my life, but raised Christian, kind of leaning back towards Christianity and deism. But I'm trying to figure out the Orthodox perspective on creationism. And I know you're a creationist, I guess, but I'm trying to understand why is that critical to Orthodox faith to accept the interpretation in Genesis of creation?
Because it ties into Christology and the doctrine of Christ and what Christ did as the second Adam. So Christ can't be like a second evolutionary Adam. He's got to be the same Adam as Adam.
Okay, but why can't you accept like a sort of like a what do you call it?
I mean, there's other reasons as well, like death is unnatural. It's not a natural thing. For Orthodoxy, it's unnatural. In Romans 8, all of creation is subjected to bondage, and so Christ's recapitulation would be undone if Christ isn't the second Adam, if he doesn't recapitulate all reality like Adam did.
Okay, so intelligent design would not work, like God sort of starting the evolutionary process in motion that resulted in
death is a result
humanity.
Of the fall. It's not a thing that exists for aeons to produce Adam and Eve.
Death is the result of the fall. So there would be no death without the fall.
So it's not a thing that exists for aeons to produce Adam and Eve.
Okay, so like all animals would not die?
There's no death before Adam and Eve. Therefore, death as a process of evolution cannot be the thing that exists for aeons to produce Adam and Eve.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so then I guess I don't want to get into a huge scientific debate. But
well, I mean, let's we can do like the philosophy of science debate, because I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to you. I'm just saying, like, most of the time, people that argue this stuff can never tell me why I'm supposed to believe in their theory of science.
Well, I mean, there's a scientific process. You accept the scientific process, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm asking about the philosophy of science.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm equipped to debate the philosophy of science, but I guess I'd just like to understand, like, how do you reject modern science's contention that the Earth is like 4.5 billion years old based on radiometric dating and
because all of that is based on presuppositions baked into the measurements themselves, and the people making these claims are going outside of the bounds of what can be known from observation and making gigantic metaphysical leaps and telling me gigantic stories about the origins of the universe, which is not justified on the basis of a lot of times physics things that are occurring that can be explained on both models. So a creationist and an evolutionary theorist or a Big Bang theorist or whatever, they can both have equally accurate descriptions of various phenomenon. So that the phenomenon themselves are not going to tell us the gigantic age variations and differences. So that's when I say, how does empirical observation tell me a priori all of these gigantic descriptions of aeons of time? And the people that I ask that question to can never even tell me about their epistemic theory to begin with, or why I should believe in empiricism. So for me, none of it philosophically gets off the ground, because they don't even realize they're assuming all these metaphysical things and all of these things that go way outside the bounds of what empirical sense data can actually verify.
Okay, but you're saying the scientific process itself is not undergirded by like a proper philosophical basis?
Yeah, I'm saying that most of the time, the average biologist or life science guy or physicist, I'm trying to think of the people that I've had debates with from the science realm, neurobiologists, neuroscientists, like they don't know anything about philosophy. And I'm not saying that makes my position true. I'm just saying that when I start asking them questions about the scientific method, like they can't justify the method. But the method is supposed to be the thing that, in their view, confirms this idea of gigantic metaphysical truths. So how are we going to get back to metaphysical truths when modern scientism is premised on rejecting metaphysics?
Well, I don't think figuring out how old the Earth is a giant metaphysical question. It's just
well, there you go. So there you just demonstrated my point that science men have no idea what metaphysics is, and they don't even realize that absolutely that's a gigantic metaphysical question. Of course it is.
Well, it has gigantic metaphysical consequences, but the science itself is, when someone's conducting a scientific experiment or analyzing data or looking at radiometric evolution, processes, igneous rocks.
Okay, what do you think? What do you think metaphysics is?
What do I think metaphysics? I can't give you a definition of metaphysics, but
so hold on. So you know that science isn't making metaphysical claims, but you don't know what metaphysics is.
No, I think it has metaphysical consequences. I don't think a scientist has to be a philosopher. I mean, a grand philosopher of metaphysics, right? A scientist can just be doing scientific experiments.
Yeah, but that misses the whole point that I've just been making, that you don't realize when you're going outside the bounds of what the tool of the scientific method can tell you and what it can do, and you end up making these gigantic metaphysical claims, and that's the thing I'm calling into question. And then when I ask you what that is, you tell me you don't know what that is?
Well, I mean, just to get back to basics.
No, wait a minute. So yeah, let's back to basics. So how do you know that they're not making metaphysical claims if you don't know what metaphysics is?
I don't know that they're I don't know that they're no, I don't know that they're making metaphysical claims. You're right, but I know that they're making scientific claims, right? So you're trying to poke holes in the scientific process by deferring
you totally misunderstood what I said. I just said the scientific process is a tool for doing certain things, studying the natural world. It can't give you the things they want to make it do. That's what I said. So I absolutely believe in it. So that's I never questioned the scientific method.
Okay, so just a basic question. So why does radiometric dating cannot give you evidence of the age of the Earth in millions of years or billions of years?
Because the methodology already has in the system, baked into it, the long aeons of billions of year date. It presupposes the thing that I'm questioning. That's why I said both models.
Well,
are you familiar? Hold on. Are you familiar with what's called the underdetermination of data problem?
Vaguely. I mean, I think I get what you're. Go ahead and tell me. I think I get what you're saying.
What is it vaguely?
Underdetermination of data.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that you're drawing a conclusion from the data.
No.
That cannot be drawn, is what you're saying, right?
No, it's a problem in epistemology where certain theories can be accurately and sufficiently explained by different models. And so piling up more evidences or more data, for example, is not immediately going to tell you which paradigm can explain the same data. So it's a famous problem in epistemology where it's a way to demonstrate or show that just having more data isn't going to tell you the paradigm of the data. And so that's why it doesn't work to say, yeah, but I can give you more and more examples of data which proves the age of the date, which is the age of the Earth, which is based on the thing that's in question. So what I'm saying is that, so like radiometric dating, or the similarities between like the percentage of DNA that's shared between apes and man, both the creationist and the evolutionist model, both have explanatory models of the same data. So it's what I'm saying is that data doesn't solve the underdetermination of data problem.
Okay, but what about when different strains of science, different disciplines of science match the same theory? In other words, they corroborate the theory.
Well, that depends on the theory in question. That's not persuasive? Well, it depends on what's in question. So, but that isn't going to tell you the metaphysical claims. That's what I'm trying to say. It's never going to get you there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that if you have different disciplines of science and they all point to the Earth being 4.5 billion years old, that could be biogeography, it could be plate tectonics, it could be...
Yeah, but those models all assume... The models already assume the thing in question, right? That's what I'm pointing out. So you're just because all of the people producing those papers and those models already believe in the long date thesis. And I'm saying that.
So I agree with this theory, like when it comes to climate change, but I have a harder time connecting that.
Oh, but wait a minute. Oh, so the system only lies about climate change. Does it lie about gender studies or not? Is that because I go meet a bunch of doctors that tell me that I can be a woman.
I think it definitely lies about that too.
Oh, wait, okay, but they don't lie about anything else. Is that right?
No, I'm open. I'm open to the possibility that. But are you suggesting that it's almost like a unspoken conspiracy about all these disciplines of science that are pointing to this?
I'm saying that they make the same mistake that you make, which is to think that looking at a piece of data like a rock or geologic structures itself a priori gives you an aeon's timeline of date, when the same model of a creationist model can accurately and sufficiently explain that as well. So in other words, we're looking at, let's say, strata of, I don't know, like in the Grand Canyon or something, and we see these different layers of dirt and whatnot, and one model says, oh, the only way that this could have been produced is over aeons of time. And I say, well, but wait a minute, there was a thing that opened up in South Dakota overnight, and it's basically a mini Grand Canyon that happened like that. So how do I know? So in other words, I might look at the thing that opened up overnight in Montana or whatever. I can show you the article, and I might look at the structure and the layers there and say, oh, the only way this canyon could have formed is clearly by 100 million years. There's no other way to explain it. Or one other example, the Fly Geyser. Why this, stalactite, stalagmite structures like this, these calcium deposits, they can only form in 10 million years. That's how long it takes for it to build up. When everybody knows the Fly Geyser built up over 40 years. So what I'm saying is that the models themselves are going to reinterpret the data that's in front of us to fit the model. So every time you tell me that, well, there's another science team that says that it takes a zillion years for the light from Zeta Reticuli to get to Earth. Well, God can create a universe where the light is already present from Zeta Reticuli. It didn't spin off from a single Big Bang that took a billion years to get here, right? You see, both models can accurately, sufficiently interpret data. And so more and more data, which is what you're talking about when you tell me that you can pile up science papers and science men, more and more data is never going to get you to proving the model that interprets the data. That's why philosophy of science is prior to doing science.
Sure, but I think empirical science can also build models, right? It can go the other direction.
No. So you just showed that you don't know what you're talking about right there. Now I'm trying to be mean to you. But by definition, empirical science cannot build you a model, because models deal with prior to science things like epistemology and metaphysics. So maybe we mean different things about models there. I'm talking about worldviews.
Yes, we do. Yeah, okay. No, I get what you're saying. So how far are you willing to go with this? I mean, the biblical like story of creation, and so is the earth, would this take
I'll tell you what, how about you tell me what the model is, right? So what am I'm supposed to believe in what empirical science? How does empirical science tell me, first of all, what happened on Earth 1 billion or 100 million years ago?
I could go with. I mean, you want me to go into science? I mean, it would be through the geologic record.
Oh, wait, whoa! But that's not empirical data of what happened 11 million years ago. That's an interpretation of
evidence. Of evidence, yeah.
Well, it's an interpretation of objects, rocks, layers of strata, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
where when you look at that strata or that rock, where does any of that tell you a date?
It tells you a date based on the ratio.
No. So now that's interpretation. So that's my point. The empirical evidence in front of you does not tell you anything like that. You interpret the evidence according to the paradigm. And the question is, how do you know you have the right paradigm? Maybe you do, but how do you know that?
Okay, so what you're telling me is that we need scientists that accept the view that the Earth is about 10,000 years old. Then they need to start doing science based on that paradigm.
No.
And they will figure it out. They will figure out that the rocks are really not that old?
No, I've just been giving you classic arguments and examples from philosophy of science about how philosophy is prior to the doing of science. But everybody who does science doesn't recognize this and doesn't know what I'm talking about or what philosophers are talking about. They think they're just playing word games or something when they're asking real questions about the things that are underlie the scientific method. What makes the scientific method possible? That's the things I'm talking about. And those things.
I find that's fascinating.
Okay, but guess what? Those things are not in the purview of the scientific method, so they can never get you to that.
But did science just go off the rails then? I mean, what happened? Why have all these disciplines of science gone off the rails and taken on this erroneous theory?
I already explained earlier that science and scientists typically don't know anything about philosophy, and so they don't know when they're talking about metaphysical claims that go outside the bounds of the limits of their system and their science.
But you're suggesting that there's a boundary that they shall not cross. If the science takes them somewhere that crosses a metaphysical boundary, they should not cross that boundary. But that
I'm saying that they need to give an account for what they're talking about if they cross the boundary, and that they're subject to their own limitations, but they don't even realize that because they don't know what they're doing when they do it. So it has nothing to do with all of scientists in the world going off course and buying into some grand conspiracy. It's more so that people adopted worldviews that became popular, normative, and were pushed down from the top, from Oxford, Cambridge, places like that, the Royal Society. They have pushed this materialist empiricist paradigm, which probably 95% of the West believes. And it's a nonsense, gibberish paradigm, which if they understood it, would actually make science itself impossible. That has nothing to do with whether those people do science. So they can do science all day long, and they can come to true conclusions. They can discover things in engineering and mathematics and whatever. That doesn't mean that they can give an account for or justify their system, their claims, their beliefs, or the metaphysics that underlie it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's fair. Can you just tell me real quick then, under your view, the Earth was created around 7,000 to 10,000 years ago, is that right?
Sure.
And was the whole universe created at that moment with the stars and the...
Yeah, I mean, have you not read Genesis?
Yeah, okay, so, and the solar system do you accept the conventional solar system too?
What do you mean by the conventional solar system?
I mean, obviously, like, heliocentric model. You accept
I
that,
don't have any hard set view on any of that.
Okay. So, do you believe in, do you accept space travel and, like, Mars and Elon Musk and all that stuff?
I don't believe that we're going to fly to Mars, no.
Okay. But
I do believe there is a Mars.
Mars exists. You believe that Mars exists and that it is rotating around the sun?
Of course Mars. Why would I not believe Mars exists?
Okay,
are you trying to troll me now?
No. I was just trying to understand exactly your worldview on the nature of, like, the Earth and the sun, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't claim to be a physicist or any of those things, and I don't have to be a physicist to ask questions to people who make grandiose claims, right? So a lot of times, for example, people in the science sphere will say things like, outrageous, wild, claims require outrageous, wild evidences. And so I just hold them to the same standard, and I say, you want me to believe that something came out of nothing and that, various species who don't even have within their DNA the ability to be another species produce other species because there was a mutation. So to me, that's a giant non sequitur leap that underlies a lot of these kind of ridiculous pagan myths. I mean, to me, the idea that something comes out of nothing and that one species mutates into and transmutates into another species, to me, that's fairy tale stuff. So,
what about microevolution?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's just adaptation. We observe that.
Okay, so
has anybody ever observed macro transmutation? No. No, they haven't. It doesn't exist.
They haven't. Well, I mean, there's gap.
But wait a minute. I thought you were an empiricist. So where's the empirical observation of this? You don't do metaphysics because that goes outside.
No, where's the empirical of macro transmutation? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a hardcore evolutionist in terms of human evolution, but I just have a hard time buying into buying into the Genesis story. That's all. So like,
well, I have a hard time buying into the conflicting, contradicting narratives of atheist retards who can't make sense of basic metaphysical claims. So I'll believe your science when you tell me the philosophy behind the science.
Understood. Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
What is like in the Garden of Eden? So when God created like all the animals and all the humans and or Adam and Eve, what you believe that there was no predatory behavior between the animals? Like it didn't.
Correct. The Orthodox view is that the functioning of the natural world prior to the fall was much different than it is now. So it's a very metaphysically different world when Eden was there versus the modus operandi post-fall. So we didn't have, biologically engineered bodies to, try to chew meat. Like I wouldn't need incisors. The bodies were very different, and that's different than most, Western theology of the fall and all that. So Orthodoxy is a much more cosmic metaphysical account of the fall and its cosmic scope than what you typically find in Protestantism and Roman Catholicism.
So they don't accept that view. They believe that animals were predatory.
Who?
Catholics.
Most Catholics believe in evolution post Humani Generis or whatever, Pius XII.
Okay, so what you're saying is so we would have had microevolution after creation to become carnivorous.
Yeah, I think all predatorial components and the very makeup of our bodies to take in nutrients from meat, fats, and our guts. All of that is post-fall configuring, so to speak.
Okay, and do all Orthodox churches and priests accept this? Do they preach this?
No, but that doesn't really have anything to do with whether it's true or false, because you can read Father Seraphim Rose's book Genesis, Creation, Early Man, and I'm holding to the traditional view.
Okay. So what are you a minority? Is that a minority view or is that the majority view?
Amongst priests or laity or
Orthodox, who? Amongst Orthodox priests.
I don't even know. There's probably never been a survey of most. I would say probably most like American Orthodox priests probably favor something like theistic evolution, but I have no idea what the percentages would be.
They favor. Wait, which one do they favor?
They would probably favor theistic evolution because they're taught in Western universities.
Okay. I missed the earlier part of the show. What were the recommended books on creationist science stuff?
Well, the Institute for Creation Research has a lot of good stuff. Like Dr. Jason Lyle, his books cover a lot of probably what you would be interested in. But again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't claim to. People give science this sort of like authority and this power that they don't even really realize is like the emperor's wearing no clothes. And they think that I'm not anti-science. I'm just pointing out that what you think is science is actually just a lot of metaphysics and alternative storytelling. And I would say, real hard science is stuff like engineering, like people using principles to build computers and, the outrageous algorithms that go into making this, Apple computer. That, to me, that's real science. But people that, speculate about what happened 11 million years ago and what the monkey was doing when it was fighting with the, snake in the tree 11 million years, that's just all bullshit, dude. That's made up stories that I'm supposed to believe. And if they can give me an account of the basic principles that they're using to make these assessments, then I'll listen to them. But 99% of them can't. So why should I listen to people who can't give an account for their methodology? Isn't that, by the way, kind of being a scientist? I'm doing the science of investigating your methodology, whether it's solid or not. But isn't it funny that most of these people don't want to be questioned on their philosophy and methodology?
Well, it's not that funny because they're not philosophers, right? They're not equipped.
So they have assumptions that they're working on, and they think that they're doing something. And when I call it into question, they'd rather not answer those questions.
Sure. I mean, they probably don't. They probably don't have a lot of time or inclination to study philosophy.
Well, and they don't even realize that they're doing metaphysics when they're doing science.
Well, they don't realize that they wouldn't. I don't think they would accept that interpretation. But I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, you're saying. But
you didn't know what metaphysics was, so how are you going to say that's wrong?
I mean, give me a definition of metaphysics, real quick.
Well, but wait a minute. You've been saying that they don't do it.
I mean, metaphysics is what? The philosophy of knowledge? Is that what you would call it?
No. So you just basically showed you have no idea what this is about.
Epistemology of knowledge.
Philosophy of knowledge. Metaphysics is not epistemology. Two different disciplines. So anyway, okay. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I appreciate your questions.